Elon Musk is cutting jobs at these companies because a recession is most likely as he believes. Here is Bill Gates saying that a global economic slowdown is hitting this year. If you have been watching the news, you probably realize that almost every billionaire analyst or economist has warned us that a financial crisis is around the corner. Jamie Dimon says that he expects an economic hurricane to hit us. In fact, 70% of Americans think a recession is coming. It seems like we are on the brink of an economic catastrophe. If you opt the Wikipedia list of the number of recessions in the US, you will realize that recessions are nothing new. They might sound like catastrophe, but they're an essential part of our economic cycle. It is normal that the economy reaches a certain ceiling and then slowly starts cooling down. If you pay close attention, you will realize that back before the creation of the Fed, the recessions were much more common after around 2 to 3 years of economic growth. The economy would peak and then slow down for its next expansion after the central bank's manipulation. 6, 7 or even 8 years of economic expansion have become much more common until we have broken the record of 10 years and 8 months of economic expansion. It seems like we have reached our peak of using the Fed's policy to avoid recession, since we have suffered one during the COVID and another one is on the horizon before the pandemic is even over. We're not going to go into the details about why we are about to face another recession. We have explored that in previous videos. So let's find out how to prepare for the next recession, how to benefit from the upcoming crisis, and how to make sure that you get out of the next recession much better financially. We will answer all of these questions and many more. But before we do that, give this video a thumbs up and let's dive in. Number 1. Never abandon the cash. An economic crisis is a period of turmoil. It is the time when cash on the table matters the most when business is growing. Not many care about the cash because the economy is filled with it. People invest in risky assets without being concerned about the consequences. That's why we had crypto and NFTs growing like Falcon 9 in the last 2 years. But the moment the fact hinted that we're most likely headed into a recession, even the world's richest man sold its bitcoins and began to grow its cash position. Suddenly everyone began following the footsteps of Warren Buffett, who has always prioritized cash over risky investments. His name wasn't shine in the last 2 years like the likes of Cathie Woods or Elon Musk. But that's what makes him different. He's sitting on an enormous amount of cash waiting for an opportunity to strike. So the best way to prepare yourself for the next recession is by reducing your expenses as much as you can and getting yourself ready for the winter. I know that sometimes a few dollars here on a cup of coffee or a few $100 on new sneakers don't mean much, but at the end of the day they add up. Add to that the enormous inflation we have now. Everything you buy is just much more expensive. We'll get through this high inflation as soon as we solve the global supply chains, but it might take us until the next year. So if you want to be ready for the next recession, save, save and save. By the way, welcome to Ricky Avelino YouTube channel. Enjoy watching while learning. Number 2. Invest in liquid businesses. Because cash is scarce during financial turmoils, a lot of businesses often shrink dramatically or just declare bankruptcy. People aren't going to work for free. Remember that they have stomachs to feed. So it is normal where there is a wave of businesses that are going to shut down during the 2008 financial crisis. Even huge corporations filed for bankruptcy such as General Motors, Chrysler, AIG. And many, many more bigger and more stable companies or governments acquire them. So if you're investing, make sure to invest in companies that have cash to survive this storm. That's why some companies like Apple and Microsoft are sitting on a huge pile of cash despite high inflation, since it's far better to let inflation slowly eat away the fortune rather than face a recession without enough liquidity. If you want to find out how liquid the business is, all you have to do is take a look at the balance sheet. If it's a public company, then you should easily find their financial statements. I don't expect every company to have over $200 billion in cash, like Apple has. Number 3. A recession is an opportunity. Recessions seem like the worst time to start the business. However, facts on the ground prove the absolute opposite. When the economy is growing, competing with top players difficult, if not impossible. However, during crisis is when huge corporations are distracted by huge bureaucracy. Startups have the opportunity to strike. WhatsApp, for example, was founded in 2009 when the economy was crippled by the crisis. A few years later, Facebook acquired WhatsApp for $19 billion. And today, with over 2 billion users, it's worth a lot more. Uber is another example. It was founded back in 2009 and today it is worth almost $50 billion despite the fact that it is still struggling to turn a profit. There are plenty of other examples such as Pinterest, Venmo, Slack and Square, but the most notable of course is Bitcoin. In fact, the 2008 crash was the reason that pushed Satoshi Nakamoto to create Bitcoin, that ended up creating an entire industry that turned many people into millionaires and billionaires. Think of Coinbase, Binance as Gemini, and many more. Even Tesla, which went almost bankrupt during the crisis, managed to survive and turn the crisis into a turning point in the industry's history. That was the moment when other manufacturers filed for bankruptcy. Well, Tesla emerged strongest, but it is not just about starting a business. A recession is a period to boost to career. Taking responsibility during turmoils will give you an upper hand over your colleagues, and you can climb the career ladder much faster in a relatively short period. Just take a look at how many CEOs lost their jobs to their junior managers during the last crisis. It is easy to be patient when everything is growing. If you've purchased Bitcoin at $11,000 before its stratospheric rise, you have watched how your assets grew so dramatically over a short period of time. The truth is that the absolute opposite happens during the bear market. A lot of people don't get patient and sell off thinking that the world is about to end. If the world is about to end, then you don't need that money anyways. Drugs aside, the stock market has survived the Great Depression, World War II, endless recessions, the Vietnam and Iraq War. The investors who actually made the money are the ones who either sold before everything crushed, which is almost impossible since timing the market is not as easy as you might imagine, or waited till the crisis passed and stocks began to grow again during the expansion period. I have made huge losses, but I'm more than confident that everything will recover. Number 5, don't go into debt. If you haven't prepared yourself for recession, you're going to struggle. A lot of people get into debt when they can't fulfill their basic needs. And if a recession happens as a result of financial bubble or inflation, like in our case, now, the Fed would raise the rates to slow down the bubble, which means that the debt is going to be expensive during such periods. In 2007, at the peak of the housing bubble, the Fed raised the rate to 5.25%. Imagine what was the raise to consumers such as you and me in the year 2000 during the dot-com bubble. The Fed raised the rate to 6.5%. That's why recessions make the rich richer and the poor poorer, because poor people often struggle to save money, so during the recessions they might have to borrow to put food on the table, while the rich don't and can use that excessive cash to take an opportunity of the crisis. These are just some of the ways to get yourself ready for the next crisis. But at the end of the day, you have to consider your own circumstances, which is most likely going to be different from everyone else. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.